The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the weathered canvas and wooden structures of the frontier settlement as 39-year-old Thomas Crawford just with his wide-brimmed hat and surveyed the day's work. His strong hands, marked by years of hard labor under the unforgiving sun, showed the calluses of a man who had built everything he owned from nothing. Thomas wore his usual dark leather coat over worn denim and boots, the practical touch of someone who had learned that survival on the frontier demanded both strength and resourcefulness. His dark hair and the slight lines around his eyes told the story of a man who had faced hardships but still retained his vigor. For 7 years since losing his wife Margaret to fever, Thomas had managed his small ranch and trading post alone, gradually withdrawing from the community that had once been the center of his world. The ranch itself bore the marks of a property maintained by a single person doing the work of several. The canvas-covered wagons and simple wooden structures were sturdy and functional, but lacked the small touches that made a place feel like a home rather than just a shelter. Thomas told himself he preferred the solitude that he had grown to set in his ways to accommodate another person's presence. As the sun began to sink lower in the sky, Thomas noticed a small figure approaching from the direction of the main trail. At first, he assumed it was one of the neighbor children bringing news or perhaps a traveling merchant looking for supplies, but as the figure drew closer, Thomas realized it was a young woman walking alone, carrying what appeared to be a small bundle of belongings. The woman appeared to be in her mid-20s with long dark hair, loosely braided, and wearing a simple white blouse and brown skirt that showed the dust of many miles. Thomas could see even from a distance that she was exhausted, her steps showing the determined but weary gait of someone who had been walking for days. Thomas sat down his work and stood up, removing his hat in the polite gesture his late mother had taught him years ago. As the young woman approached the edge of his property, he could see that her face bore the particular combination of desperation and dignity that he recognized from his own difficult years after Margaret's death. "Evening, miss," Thomas called out, his voice carrying the gentle authority of a man accustomed to dealing with frightened animals and uncertain situations. "You look like you have been traveling a long way. Can I offer you some water?" The woman stopped about 20 قدم away from him, close enough to speak comfortably, but far enough to maintain a respectful distance. Thomas appreciated her caution. A woman alone on the frontier had to be careful about strange men, even ones who appeared harmless. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice carrying a slight accent that suggested she had not been born in this territory. "My name is Isabella Santos. I have been working for 4 days looking for honest work." Thomas nodded and gestured toward the well near the main dwelling. "Please help yourself to water and rest a moment. The sun will be setting soon and you should not be on the trail after dark." As Isabella approached the well, Thomas studied her more carefully. Despite her obvious exhaustion and travel-worn clothes, she carried herself with quiet pride. Her movements were graceful and efficient as she drew water from the well, and she was careful not to waste any or make a mess. These were the habits of someone who had been raised to respect resources and work hard for what she needed. "Forgive me for asking, Miss Santos, but what kind of work are you seeking? There are not many opportunities for a young lady out here in this remote territory." Isabella finished drinking, and turned to face him directly. In the golden light of the setting sun, Thomas could see that her dark eyes held intelligence and determination, but also a weariness that went beyond physical fatigue. "Sir, I must be honest with you about my situation," Isabella said, her voice steady despite the obvious difficulty of what she was about to say. "I am not just looking for work. I am looking for a place to belong, a home where I can contribute and be valued. Thomas felt something stir in his chest, a recognition of loneliness that he had spent years trying to ignore. Go on, he said gently. Isabella took a deep breath and looked directly into his eyes. Please, sir, I can see that you are a good man and that you have been managing this place alone for some time. I can cook well. I can help with the livestock. I can mend clothes and manage a household, and if you are willing, I can bear you children and help you build something that will last beyond both our lifetimes. The words hung in the air between them like a challenge and an offering combined. Thomas felt his heart begin to beat faster, not from any improper thoughts, but from the recognition that this young woman was proposing something he had not dared to hope for in many years, a true partnership. Miss Santos, Thomas sighed carefully, that is a generous offer, but I need to understand your circumstances. What has brought you to make such a proposal to a stranger? Isabella's composure wavered slightly, but she maintained her dignity as she explained. My husband died 8 months ago when his horse threw him, leaving me with debts I could not pay. I lost our small homestead and have been traveling ever since, looking for a place where I can rebuild my life. I am not asking for charity, sir. I am proposing a fair exchange. I will give you my loyalty, my work, and my companionship. In return, I ask for a home, protection, and the chance to be part of something meaningful. Thomas removed his hat and ran his fingers through his dark hair. The honesty and directness of Isabella's proposal both impressed and humbled him. Here was a woman who had faced tragedy and loss. Yet, instead of giving into despair, she was actively working to create a new future for herself. Isabella, he said, using her first name for the first time. I want you to know that I am honored by your proposal. But I also want you to know that if you stay here, it will be because we choose to build something together, not because you have no other options. Isabella looked surprised by his response. I do not understand. What I mean is this, Thomas continued. You are welcome to stay here for as long as you need to rest and recover from your journey. I can offer you honest work helping with the ranch and trading post and fair wages for that work. If after we have had time to know each other properly, we both feel that we would like to build a life together, then we can discuss marriage. But I will not take advantage of your current situation, no matter how much I might benefit from the arrangement. For the first time since she had arrived, Isabella smiled genuinely. You truly are a good man, Thomas Crawford. I can see why your place has survived even without a woman's help. How did you know my name? I asked at the trading post in town. People speak well of you. They say you are honest, hardworking, and that you treated your late wife with great kindness and respect. Over the following weeks, Isabella proved herself to be everything she had claimed and more. She was indeed an excellent cook, transforming Thomas' simple meals into flavorful and nourishing food. She had a natural way with the horses and cattle, helping with the livestock as if she had been raised on a ranch. Most importantly, she brought a warmth and liveliness to the property that Thomas had not realized he was missing. As autumn turned to winter, Thomas found himself looking forward to their evening conversations by the fireplace. Isabella was intelligent and well-read despite her humble background. She asked thoughtful questions about ranch management and the trading business and shared stories from her own experiences that often made Thomas laugh for the first time in years. On Christmas Eve, as they sat together watching the snow fall outside the window, Isabella turned to Thomas with a serious expression. Thomas, I need to ask you something. When I first arrived here, I made you an offer that was born from desperation. But I want you to know that my feelings have changed. I no longer want to stay here just because I need a home. I want to stay because I have come to care for you deeply. Thomas reached across the space between their chairs and took her hand in his withered one. Isabella, you have given me back something I thought I had lost forever. You have reminded me what it feels like to have someone to care for and someone who cares for me in return. They were married the following spring in a simple ceremony attended by their neighbors who had watched their courtship with approval and genuine happiness. Isabella's desperate whisper on that first evening had been transformed into a love story that enriched both their lives and strengthened the entire community. Years later, as they watched their children play in the yard of the now thriving ranch and trading post, Thomas often reflected on how Isabella's courage in speaking her heart's desire had changed everything. Sometimes the most important conversations begin with the hardest truths to speak.